Welcome to the Project Success Through History podcast, where we connect history with project and leadership lessons. We're about to take a journey, one that begins in the mountains of Yemen, winds its way through ancient trade routes, and eventually lands in our modern workplaces, shaping how we think about culture, resilience, and success. Coffee is something most of us take for granted. It's a morning ritual, a comfort, a productivity booster. But behind every cup is a story, and Yemen sits right at the heart of that story. For centuries, Yemen wasn't just part of the coffee world, it defined it. Today I'm joined by Ala Al Ariki, a cybersecurity lecturer at an Australian university, who brings both knowledge and a personal connection to this remarkable history. We'll explore Yemen's role in shaping global coffee culture, and then we'll draw out the lessons this heritage offers for leadership, identity, and project success. So settle in. This is going to be an aromatic experience. Thank you, Ala, for joining us. I really appreciate it. Let me start simply. Why is the story of coffee so important to you?
Thank you, David, for hosting me today. Coffee is a living story for me. It's not a commercial product. It's about land, patience, people, and survival. So when you understand Yemeni coffee, you are really understanding how value is created under pressure, under very unique and limited resources. For me, it's represent resilience, identity, and wisdom, still until today.
Ala, when we talk about the origins of coffee in Yemen, where does the story really begin?
Yeah, it's really important. Before you invite me for this broadcast, I'm from Yemen and I lived with it, but I haven't thought about reading the story and how it came. So I start reading and doing research in Arabic resources and of course in English resources. So coffee beans are widely believed to have originated in the mountains regions of western Ethiopia. While still there are strong historical arguments supporting Ethiopian as a place of its early cultivations, however, there are no written records documenting its systematic use there in the earliest time. So what's clear is that the story of coffee as a drink and culture begins in Yemen. So Yemen is where coffee was cultivated intentionally and produced carefully and shared as part of a daily life.
Ala, there's also a spiritual side to this story, isn't there?
Yeah, it's fascinating to see how the coffee was connected with the religion and the spiritual activities. So if we go back and read about the most widely known legend is that Kaldi is the Ethiopian goat holder is who observed his goat becoming energetic after eating the red beers from certain tree. So, however, there exists of another less unknown but still historical documented narrative in Yemen involving the Sufi sheikh, or we can say imam. His name is Omar. So Omar was exiled by his tribe in Yemen, and he moved to Ethiopia and lived in a place near Mount Osab, if I'm not mistaken. So while starving, he discovered unfamiliar red berries growing nearby. So he first attempted to eat that fruit, But then he found it like it's sparse and the seeds hard. So he then tried to boil it, the seed, and then later roast it over the fire. So he noticed, okay, there is something really good taste with it. So when he roasted these, when he boiled it in water, the result was the first brewed coffee made from roasted beans. So Omar experienced the stimulating effects of the drink, and when he returned back to his community, because he was the sheikh and imam of Sufism, where he shared it with others imams of Sufisms, and they start utilizing these beans for their staying over the night, helping them to remain awake while also focused and doing their night prayers. This is how this start integrated in their spiritual and social gathering.
Can't talk about Yemeni coffee without mentioning Mocka. Why is that city so significant to the story of coffee?
So it's interesting. If you see the geographic location, Yemen and Ethiopia, it's some people they say there used to be maybe one land, because if you see the sea, the Red Sea, it's like divided the two islands. If you see, so because if you go there and you stand, you can in the edge of the Yemen, you can see the border or the other sides of Africa. It's not that the distance far, so it's connected. So once the coffee became rooted in Yemen, okay, so it's evolved into the foundation elements of Arab culture and the whole Arabian Peninsula. So what makes it is the unique environment condition of the Yemeni highlands, which includes the climate, shaped later to be recognized as globally as a coffee arabica. So as the demand for Yemeni coffee increased, so travel down because most of the coffee in Yemen is they farm it in the mountain and it's not near to the sea. So once the demand of the coffee increased, they travel down from the mountain to the port on the Red Sea. And this port in the Red Sea became the legend later on, which is called Mocka. So for centuries, Mocka served as the only gateway for coffee sold internationally under the Ottoman Empire rule. So strict controls over imposed to maintain the Yemenis' monopoly. So they created this policy that's forbidden coffee beans from leaving the Yemen country unless if they were roasted, which make them preventing like farming in elsewhere.
So they kept a monopoly. They were able to hold a monopoly on coffee.
Yeah, yeah, because that was a thing they discovered. The Yemenis like, oh, this is can be a source of income,
Yes.
and the Ottoman Empire was there. It's like, oh yeah, let's keep it. So until I think the mid of 1600s, the Ottoman Turks and the Sultan of Yemen controlled the global coffee supply with, all the legal trade coffee passing through the port of Mocka. So despite these restrictions, some green beans and seedings were smuggled outside Yemen. So the coffee reached to Paris where it was cultivated in the royal greenhouse. And also later, it's moved into the third country because we can consider Ethiopia the first and Yemen, and then move into the third country, which is India, which became the third country after Ethiopia of Yemen to cultivate the coffee. And then eventually the Dutch succeed in smuggling the seeds and the young plants, whether it's from Yemen or India, still, people are reading about it, and to where to Indonesia, which now this is a major step because they started breaking the monopoly and establishing the commercial coffee cultivations within a few generations. Then the world recognized the two dominant coffee identities, which they call them Mocha and Java. Java is in Indonesia.
That is absolutely fantastic. I had no idea. Do Yemenis see this coffee as a loss of a legacy. How does the Yemeni people see this?
Yeah, it's both. There is a pride in knowing Yemen gave a coffee to the world, but at the same time, pain in seeing others profit from what began there. Still, Yemeni coffee remains unique and rare and respected and matched in characters. So the legacy is still alive. It just needs the recognition and the protection.
Now, as you know, I love coffee. I have 4 cups a day, just normal coffee, not Yemeni coffee. But I'm really curious because we've talked about this ourselves. You know what I'm like with coffee. So I want you to imagine if someone stepped into a Yemeni home, which one day I hope to be able to do, what would coffee mean there? What would it mean to a Yemeni home?
Yeah, I'll be more than happy to host you one day, and it's kind of like even I'm living here outside Yemen in Australia. It's the first things in the morning. I want a Yemeni coffee, and yeah, you can see like if you go in the markets, they have different nice, you know, but Yemeni coffee is different, and it's part of our identity. I have some of my friends here from Yemen. The first things you go to your home, their house is coffee. Coffee means hospitality, means respect. So we offer it before you question. We'll bring you there the coffee before even you question, before even you ask. It's kind of building a relationship or starting a relationship.
It's interesting you say that because someone we know, your friend Ali, said to me that the way people from Yemen drink coffee is different to the way the rest of the world drinks coffee. Can you explain what is the difference?
In Yemen, and when you think about it, Yemen, the coffee is for everyone. It's for poor class people, for the middle class, for the rich class. You find them, all of them, any house you go, you find all of them drinking the same coffee and sitting together, sharing the moments. And if you go to any house, whether it's any class of people, they have a room where they call it in Arabic majlis. Majlis, is coming from ijlis, which is the sitting, which is a place. It's like a living room, but we usually sit in the floor. That's our culture. So you find in a house people they will gather there. They will be there in that place, and you find the coffee is there on that room. Whether you're coming from which class, no matter what, you still have this coffee, and it's like you are welcome, you are safe, you are matter.
Now, is it true that even with coffee, the way it's brewed in Yemen is different? So I heard that in Yemen, you don't have coffee with the actual beans, you have coffee with the shells. Is that true?
See that the interesting things about uh, the Yemen coffee. It's growing in area in a mountain which is almost 1,200 meter above the sea, and you can imagine the mountain, right? And what happened is the interesting part: the coffee trees are forced to adapt to the limited water because they are living in a mountain and there is limited resources, limited water, and it's harsh environment. So this create a unique and intensive and distinctive taste of the coffee. And caffeine in a coffee is a function of defense mechanism for the tree itself from the insects. It's like antibiotic. But the more you go above the sea, the more the weather become cold, the more you find an insects. And that's why you don't see the beans producing more caffeine because not they don't need more protecting system, which I think make it. That's how you will see many coffees with a different flavor and a little bit. They say it's like a chocolate, the mocha one. And then, so like when we spoke about it before, like the Ottoman Empire, they wanted to make it monopoly. They just, roast it before they sell it. So they used to roast it, and they only try to only sell the beans and roast it. But then the shield, the shield of the beans,
Yes.
they take it away, and the Yemenis invented a way of creating a coffee from the shield.
And what's it taste like? Is it different coffee?
Amazing.
Amazing.
Amazing. And they add with some spices, like ginger with it sometimes, some spices with it. Amazing. And they use it in different events. Like if the woman is just deliver a baby, they create this type of it's not a heavy coffee, it's from the shields, but they mix it with some spices that's helpful for them. And yeah, it's yeah, I'll invite you once. I'll give you once. It's we love it.
Now, I imagine you have many memories, but if I ask you, do you have a personal memory connected to coffee?
Yeah. So I am originally from a city which is the middle between the north and the south. It's in the middle of Yemen. And our village is in a high mountain, very high mountain. We can barely see the earth. It's very high. So whenever we travel there, especially for holiday or to meet a family there back in the village, so we live in a very simple lifestyle there. So we used to wake up early in the morning, like 5 in the morning, and we start our day by having maybe the early prayers, even the sun rise. So after the prayer, we will come back home. We will sit on the rooftop of the house. And usually the houses, the building, if you just search in Yemen, you will find them. It's like 3, 4 floors. Okay, which why they design it in village in that way? It's because during the history, it's the family will live together. Means the cousins, the big family, they will be living all together, and that's why if you see they will have a big 3, 4 floors houses that it contains all the family, all the cousins, all the uncles. So we used to go and live there, and we go to the top of the roof of the house. It's right on the top of the mountain. And just imagine, just go with me and imagine the view where you're on the top of a mountain, in the top of a house, on the roof, where you found everything, and you know the mountain, it's like stairs. You know the farm where they do the farming, it's like stairs. So when you are there and you look down, it's like the mountain like stairs. And why they design it in a way, it's where they can preserve water if there is rain. So that's how they design it in that way. And then when you sit there and then the sun starts and then you start saying people just waking up and then you start saying that the animals, the chicken, the farmers, and and all of them are moving slowly. In that moment, when we drink the coffee, we are not drinking for hurry. We are drinking in a quiet, in just um, with a deep connection with the nature. So even today, that memory comes back to me every time. I always smell the fresh coffee with the fresh air
It's
and with a
fascinating
nice, yeah, yeah. Thank
because
you.
Allah, when I think about it, is we drink coffee in the modern cities, the bustle, the everything around, and it's just. And then sometimes I know when we go to Italy, Italy have an espresso, and when you have an espresso in Italy, normally you do it standing up in the cafe
Mhm.
because you're
Mhm.
not there to savor the coffee. It's just an adrenaline shot. It is really interesting that your memory is it's a very important
Yeah, and
spiritual experience of being
yeah,
on the mountain.
yeah, and then also like your family will be with you, so you don't drink it in hurry. So you drink it in a slow, and then you see the nature, and then you talk with the people, and then people will cross by, the animals will cross by, your mother beside you, your father, your cousins. You talk. It's yeah, it's just social, connecting with the. We're still human. We connect where we belong. We belong to this nature.
That is fantastic.
Thank you.
If we change channels now and talk a little bit more about Yemen, and when we talk about resilience and the present day, Now, I know Yemen, it's on the news, has faced enormous challenges in recent years. So where does coffee fit into the reality of Yemen today?
So, given the was going on with the political environment, with the recent changes, with all this happening right now, people are struggling. Especially like if you see that, if even if the farmers are working hard, as you can see, it's top in the mountain with the difficult environment, with the difficult resources, and still very difficult also to do the exportation because of what's going on, and there is a lot of restriction. So Yemen is part of our life, but very sad to see it's getting harder to export it and to show it to the people.
Because it's a very niche product, I believe, in
Yeah,
the marketplace. So Yemen coffee is like a very important niche product
it
compared to
it
all the other coffees that are grown. Is that true?
it, it is, and like I mentioned before, it's the high altitude where there is a colder temperature reduce the presence of diseases of the plants itself and the beans. So the coffee plant tends to produce lower level of caffeine, allowing the flavor complexity to be there over any chemical defense.
Has the meaning of Yemeni coffee changed over time? Because we're talking 700, 600 years now.
Yes, it moves from as we discussed earlier. It it's kind of spiritual. That's how it started, and social, right? So it's from spiritual to social, and then to global community. And now, as you see with what's happening now, is coming back to a symbol of heritage and identity.
Well, that leads me into my next question. I'm really curious to know, when we now bring this back to leadership and work and what we do day to day, how does all this connect to leadership or project success? It's been a wonderful story. How do you see this story connect with how we work?
See what we have been talking so far. It can give you an idea of growing coffee in Yemen, teach you long-term thinking and risk taking without guarantees. So you plan it today, knowing that the result may take years or may never come. So that mindset, exactly what strong leadership and successful project require. Commitment, consistency, trust in the process, even if we know that the outcomes are uncertain. So if we look back, or if we just go search deep in how the coffees grow, it has different process steps when it's grow until it's ready. So the first step started with careful planting on a mountain. As I described before, the mountain is like stairs, is like slope. So it requires careful planning. And then choosing the right condition. It's not all over all the time of the year. And accepting the environment limitation, the cold weather, the water resources. It's just like setting a realistic project foundation. The second process is harvesting, which is done by hand and which require patience,
Yeah.
coordinations, and really attention to details. And then the third one is drying, right? Which takes time and you cannot be rushed. Otherwise, you will lose the quality. Then sorting, right? And you need to be honest when you do the sorting and you need to evaluate. So you need to remove what meets the standard, what doesn't meet the standard. And then finally, you do the roasting, which requires precision. So too much or too little can renew everything. So as you can see, each stage depends on the stage before. It's
That's
about,
fascinating. That
yeah,
is absolutely because you could get the roasting right, but they could be really bad coffee beans because you didn't. So really in the project, it's about getting all of those steps right through a project in your planning.
Or if you skip one of the steps, you produce really poor quality.
And I don't like drinking poor quality coffee. It's right. Isn't that amazing? If you were to reflect on this story, what's the key lesson that you would give listeners? Because we've started off with the history. We've learned about how important it is, how coffee is, because we know it's critical. It's one of the biggest, beverages in the world that we drink. We know its importance. We know its history. We know what it means to Yemen. And if you were to share with the listeners, what are the key lessons that we can take away from all of the story you've shared?
So I'll just give one statement here. I'll say Yemeni coffee remind us that the best results come from patient care, right planning, commitment, and respect for origins.
There's a lot in that, isn't there? There's a
Yeah.
lot in that. And if we can apply that same lessons to our day-to-day work and our projects, we'll leave a legacy far beyond the project itself, won't we? Which is what we really want to talk about. We want to realize that the project is just a thing we're doing at the time, but the true legacy really is what gets left. And when I think of coffee and what Yemen's done, it's an amazing legacy that I had no idea about. And when I've asked people, where does coffee come from? Of course, they say South America
See? Yeah.
or Indonesia. They go to the places that the Dutch and the French took
Yeah.
it to.
They
but
smuggle it,
not
yeah.
Yemen. They smuggled it out.
Yeah.
Well, I'll bring it to a conclusion. So I really want to thank you, Ala, for sharing your time and telling us a wonderful story.
So thank you so much. I will just say the next time you drink a coffee, remember it's became deeply human story, shaped by mountains, hardship, and wisdom, but also a community, social life, and human kindness. Yemeni coffee brings people together. It reflects culture where the relationships matter, where people are open, friendly, and generous with their time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Be sure to listen to our other podcast where we connect history with project and leadership lessons.